Thank you. Whoa. I can't see all of you, but I can hear you. It sounds like there are a lot of people here tonight. Thank you, Las Vegas. You know, a couple of weeks ago, we won the popular vote in Iowa. Last week, we won the New Hampshire primary. And tomorrow, if we come out in big numbers at 12 o'clock for the Iowa caucus, I think we're going to win here as well. So thank you all very much for being here, and let me thank all those great speakers and supporters who have spoken already. Let me thank Derek Marshall. Let me thank Dusty Sunshine for the music. Let me thank Linda Jones and Deborah Berger of the National Nurses United. And let me thank the young people who have stood up, who are here tonight, and have organized all over this country to demand that we end gun violence in America. And I want to thank Nura Abdullah and Robert Chentrop and Matt Deutsch and Cameron Kasky. Thanks not just only for being here, thanks for being leaders in helping to change this country and making us a safer nation. And let me thank my dear friend Naomi Klein, who, as you know, is one of the great writers in America speaking out on all of the important issues, including the crisis of climate change. Naomi, thank you. And let me thank Senator Nina Turner. Senator Turner and I have worked together for years now, but what she is doing, not only here in Nevada, but all over the country, she is doing the most important work, and that is getting working people, young people, people of color involved in the political process. So thank you, Senator Turner, and let me thank Congressman Chuy Garcia. As Chuy indicated, they're making some big changes in Chicago, changes that are long overdue. And change is our mantra. We are going to change this country. Now, our campaign is about two fundamental issues. Number one, obviously, is the need to defeat the most dangerous president in the modern history of this country. And our campaign, because of your support, because of the fact that here in Nevada, we've had volunteers knocking on hundreds of thousands of doors. I just came back from California 2 hours ago. They are close to 1 million doors that they have knocked on. And we're knocking on doors in Texas and in Massachusetts and all across this country. We are going to defeat Donald Trump because the American people understand, no matter what their political views may be, that we cannot continue having a pathological liar as president. We cannot continue having a corrupt administration. We cannot continue having a president who is undermining American democracy and our Constitution. We cannot continue having a president who is a bully, who can't even get along with people that he appointed in his administration. You know, every other day he's firing some guy. We cannot continue to have in our country, given our history and given the struggles that we have fought for from the inception of this country, with the terrible things done to the Native American people. We cannot continue to have a president who is a racist. We've had too much racism in this country. We cannot continue to have a president who is a sexist, who is a homophobe, who is a xenophobe, who is a religious bigot, and then he has some really bad qualities. But the truth is, and I think the American people understand that, yeah, we disagree on issues. That's called democracy. We disagree on issues, but we cannot disagree that the President of the United States is simply not the kind of man that we need to have in the White House. And the American people understand that it is time for fundamental change when we have a massive level of income and wealth inequality. And I want to be clear, because you don't hear this much on TV, you don't hear it much in the Congress, but it is not acceptable to me nor to the working families of this country that 3 people own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. That ain't democracy, that is oligarchy. Not acceptable when the top 1% own more wealth than the bottom 92%. Not acceptable when here in Nevada, and I've talked to many workers in Nevada trying to get by on 10, 11, 12 bucks an hour, you got 49% of all new income going to the top 1%. The American people understand that it is wrong when the Congress and Trump give tax breaks to billionaires, while 500,000 people tonight in Nevada, in California, will be sleeping out on the streets. We have got to get our priorities right. We need an economy and a government that work for all of us, not just the 1%. But it is not just a rigged economy. The American people, regardless of their political views, understand that we have a corrupt political system. That's it. What our campaign tries to be is honest, to take the difficult issues and put them on the table, not hide them. I believe in democracy, which is one person, one vote. I do not believe in oligarchy where billionaires are buying elections. In the last couple of weeks, Donald Trump has been out there with his billionaire friends, gets $150,000 a person for the Republican Party. You got Michael Bloomberg worth $60 billion. Bloomberg has every right in the world to run for president. He has no right to buy the presidency. And what the American people want is to end billionaire control over our political process, and that is why together we will overturn Citizens United. Why we will move to public funding of elections, and why we will tell cowardly Republican governors all over this country that they are not going to continue to suppress the vote. I want this country to have the highest voter turnout of any major country on earth, not one of the lowest. And that is why we're going to make it easier for people to vote, not harder. Bottom line is, if you're 18 years of age and a citizen of this country, you have the right to vote. End of discussion. We're going to win this election because we don't need a super PAC. We don't go to billionaires' homes raising money. We have received more campaign contributions at this point in a campaign from more people than any campaign in the history of the United States of America. Our contributors, the people who support our campaign, you know what the leading profession is? Teachers. We receive contributions, and it really hits me emotionally. We receive contributions from workers at Walmart and Amazon, people who are making low wages but are prepared to contribute 10, 20 bucks in order to transform this country. And tonight, I want to thank the 1.6 million Americans who have contributed to our campaign with a contribution averaging all of $18.50. Thank you. Our campaign is proudly, no apologies, funded by the working class of this country. We are the campaign of the working class, by the working class, and for the working class. And as a son of the working class, we're going to go forward together. Our campaign is going to defeat Trump because we have an agenda that speaks to the needs of the middle class and working families, people who have been ignored and neglected for far too long. You know, if we were a poor country, we'd have a different type of discussion. But we are the richest country, not only in the world, but in the history of the world. And if we're the richest country in the history of the world, we have got to envision what this country can be. And what this country can be is a nation not where half of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. You all know what living paycheck to paycheck is about? I grew up in a family that lived paycheck to paycheck. And when you live paycheck to paycheck, you worry that somebody in the family gets sick because you can't afford to go to the doctor. You worry that if your car breaks down, you don't have the 500 bucks to repair it. If you can't repair it, you can't get to work. If you can't get to work, you're going to lose your job. You lose your job, you can't take care of your kids. That's what living paycheck to paycheck is about. And that is why we believe that if you work 40 hours a week in Nevada, in Vermont, any place in this country, you should not be living in poverty. And that is why we're going to raise the minimum wage to a living wage at least 15 bucks an hour. That is why we're going to end the absurdity of women making 80 cents on the dollar. We believe in equal pay for equal work. Women get the whole damn dollar. And I'll tell you what else we believe in, and I believe in it very strongly. And that is, today there are millions of workers all across this country who want to join unions. They understand, and we understand, that when you engage in collective bargaining, you get better wages, better working conditions. And that is why we have introduced legislation that will double union membership in the next 4 years. And when we talk about good-paying jobs, we are prepared to put millions of workers to work at good union wages, rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure. This is America. Our roads, our bridges, our water systems, our wastewater plants should not be crumbling. And by the way, we're going to put millions of people to work building 10 million units of affordable and low-income housing. We're going to do our very best to end homelessness in America, but also understand that there are some 18 million families today that are spending half of their income for housing. Now, how do you live and do everything else if you're spending half your income for housing? You can't. And that is why we're going to fight gentrification. I grew up in an apartment, spent my whole childhood in an apartment that was rent controlled. And I have no problem with telling landlords all over this country, stop raising rents to the outrageous levels you're doing it. And if you don't stop, we will stop it for you. We're going to win this election because we believe in education. And when you stop for a moment and you think about what's going on in America, ask yourselves how, when every psychologist in the world understands that 0 through 4 are the most important years of intellectual and emotional development, how come we have a dysfunctional child care system? In the richest country in the world, we will have universal, high-quality, affordable child care for every working family. We are going to triple funding for low-income Title I schools. And that means that all kids in America will get a high-quality public education regardless of the zip code in which they are living. And because we believe in education, we believe in educators and teachers. When we change the value system of America, it means that on college campuses all across the country, there will be young people who are saying with pride, I am going to become a teacher, the most important job that anybody could do. And because teachers do such important work impacting the lives and their careers of hundreds and hundreds of young people, we are going to move forward so that no teacher earns less than $60,000 a year. And because we believe in education, we believe that all of our people, regardless of their income, are entitled to a higher education. College, whether it's college or a trade school. And that is why we are going to make public colleges and universities tuition free. And when we talk about a government that represents working families and not billionaires, we remember that 12 years ago, Congress, against my vote, voted to bail out the crooks on Wall Street. And we remember that 2 years ago, Trump and his friends, against my vote, voted to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1% and large corporations. Well, you know what? If you could bail out the crooks on Wall Street and give huge tax breaks to billionaires, we can cancel all student debt in this country. And when we talk about making this country what it should become, we are going to end the international embarrassment of America being the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a human right. So let me be as clear as I can be. Health care is a human right, not a privilege. And there is something totally absurd that in our country today, we are spending twice as much per capita on health care as do the people of any other country. We are spending twice as much, $11,000 for every man, woman, and child. And yet, despite that huge expenditure, we have 87 million people who are uninsured or underinsured. We have at least, probably a lot more, at least 30,000 people who die every single year because they don't get to a doctor on time because they're uninsured. We are paying the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, in some cases 10 times more for the same exact drug as sold in Canada or in other countries. And if you can believe it, some 500,000 people a year go bankrupt because of medically related debt. Think about it for a second. Think about the insanity, the vulgarity, and the cruelty of this system. Somebody is diagnosed with cancer. They are fighting for their lives. They end up with a $100,000 bill. Now, it is hard enough to take on cancer and to fight for your life. You should not have to worry that your family is going to be financially ruined because you're dealing with cancer. Now, in the midst of all of this, last year, the healthcare industry made $100 billion in profit. So today we say to the insurance companies and the drug companies, the function of a humane and rational healthcare system is not to make the drug companies rich, it is to provide quality care to all of our people. And that is why, alongside the National Nurses United Union, alongside thousands and thousands of doctors, we will pass a Medicare for all single-payer program. And what that means is we are eliminating all premiums for you and your employer. No more co-payments. No more deductibles. No more out-of-pocket expense. And because we're going to end the greed and corruption of the drug companies, nobody on the Medicare for All will pay more than $200 a year for prescription drugs. And because we eliminate the profiteering of the insurance companies and the drug companies, because we end the administrative nightmare of having to administer thousands of separate private insurance plans, which are wasting hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars on administrative costs, the average American will pay substantially less for health care than under the current dysfunctional system. And brothers and sisters, when we talk about the issues facing the American people, and in fact facing the world, unlike Trump, we will not ignore the terrible reality facing us in terms of climate change. Now you all know what Trump apparently is too dumb to know. And that is that climate change is not only real, not only caused by human activity, but is doing devastating harm to our country and around the world. Turn on the TV, take a look at what's happening in Australia. You know what's happening in your own state. You know what's happening in California. What the scientists are now telling us is they have underestimated the speed and severity in which climate change is causing havoc all over the world. Rising sea levels, more drought, more extreme weather disturbances, more acidification of the ocean. And what the United Nations is telling us is that as the climate gets warmer, at the end of the century, if we do not get our act together, there will be hundreds of millions of climate refugees. People forced to flee their communities because there's no drinking water, no land to grow their crops. This is a moral issue. We are fighting for the future, not only of our country, but the planet. We are fighting for our kids, grandchildren, and future generations. This is an issue that we cannot fail on. We have got to succeed to save the planet. So I am happy to tell you that we have introduced the most sweeping climate change proposal ever introduced by any candidate for federal office. It is based on the principles of the Green New Deal. And that means we are going to create up to 20 million new jobs as we transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And tonight, we tell the fossil fuel industry that their short-term profits are not more important than the future of our planet. And when we talk about changes that are long overdue, brothers and sisters, we are going to reform a broken and racist criminal justice system. It is not acceptable to me or any of you that we have more people in jail, disproportionately African American, Latino, and Native American, than any other country on earth. We are going to invest in our young people, in good jobs and education. We're not going to be investing in more jails and incarceration. We're going to end private prisons and detention centers. We are going to end the war on drugs. On day one, through executive order, we will legalize marijuana in every state in this country. We will move aggressively to expunge the records of those who have been arrested for possession of marijuana. And when we talk about broken systems, we're talking about our very broken and racist immigration system. I am sick and tired as the son of an immigrant. My dad came to this country at the age of 17 without a nickel in his pocket, couldn't speak a word of English, and had very little education. So on day one, we end the demonization of the undocumented in this country. On day one, we restore the legal status of 1.8 million young people and their parents in the DACA program. On day one, we end a border policy which allows federal agents to snatch babies from the arms of their mothers. And I have absolute confidence that we will be able to do what the American people want us to do, and that is pass comprehensive immigration reform and a path towards citizenship for the undocumented. Whatever your politics may be, you are horrified and disgusted by the level of gun violence in this country. And if there's any city in America that has experienced that horror, we're in it right now. So I don't have to explain it to the people of this city. Here is my promise to you. Our gun safety legislation will be written by the people of Las Vegas, by the people of America, not the NRA. We will provide universal background checks. People who have violent pasts should not own guns. We are going to end the gun show loophole. We're going to end the so-called straw man provision. And by the way, We are going to do what people all over the country, urban, rural, gun owners, non-gun owners, people want us to do. And that is make sure that we end the sale and distribution of assault weapons in this country. Now, as a United States Senator, I hear a lot of speeches on the floor of the Senate. And I often hear my conservative Republican colleagues tell us that as conservatives, they believe in small government. They believe in getting government off the backs of the American people. Well, I say to those hypocrites, if you believe in getting the government off of the backs of the American people, understand that it is women who have a right to control their own bodies, not the government. So here is my promise to you. I will never nominate anybody to the Supreme Court or the federal bench who is not 100% pro Roe v. Wade. We will codify Roe v. Wade, put it into law, and we will significantly expand funding for Planned Parenthood. And let me say to the men who are here, men at this moment in history have got to stand with the women. As I think all of you know, our campaign is quite different than other campaigns. What we're trying to do is not just defeat Trump, but is to transform our economy and the way our government does business. And that means, if we're honest, that we have to acknowledge, yes, we are taking on the greed and corruption of the corporate elite. We're taking on Wall Street. We're taking on the insurance industry. We're taking on the pharmaceutical industry. We are taking on the fossil fuel industry. We're taking on the military-industrial complex. We are taking on the prison industrial complex. And as a matter of fact, we're taking on the whole damn 1%. We are taking on Donald Trump and the Republican establishment. And we are taking on the Democratic establishment. And you know, as you may have noticed lately, the establishment's getting a little bit nervous. Oh my God, they're putting together a multi-generational, multi-racial movement of millions of people. Oh my goodness, how can we stop them? How can we stop the workers who want higher wages? How can we stop the young people who want to go to college and not come out with debt? How can we stop the millions of people who understand that health care is a human right? How can we stop the people who know that we've got to take on the fossil fuel industry? So they're getting nervous, but you know what? When we stand up together, they ain't gonna stop us. Because all of you know that real change, if you go throughout American history and you think about it, real change has never ever taken place from the top on down, always from the bottom on up. You think back upon workers 100 plus years ago who had the guts to tell their employers, They were not animals. They needed dignity, and they struggled to form unions. You think about the African American community throughout history that has stood up and says, sorry, racism is not acceptable. You think about the women 100+ years ago who did not even have the right to vote. Women couldn't get the education, the jobs they wanted, and they said to the world, sorry, we will not be second-class citizens. You think about our brothers and sisters in the gay and lesbian community who said, sorry, we will love the people we want, regardless of gender. And you think about young people, and we're so proud to have the support of the Sunrise Movement. But young people, not only in our country, but all over the world, who are saying to their governmental leaders, we want a planet that we can grow up in and raise our kids that is healthy and habitable. So here is the bottom line. As a United States Senator, I do understand the power of the 1%. They have enormous influence, of course, over our economy. They own the media, and they have tremendous influence over our political life. But at the end of the day, the 1% is 1%. And if we in the 99% do not allow Trump and his friends to divide us up based on the color of our skin or where we were born or our sexual orientation or our religion, if we are prepared to stand together and fight for justice, there is nothing that will stop us. Tomorrow at 12 o'clock, the Nevada Caucus takes place. Let us go out, let us bring our friends and our neighbors, let us have the largest voter turnout in the history of the Nevada Caucus. Let us go forward together, let us defeat Trump, let us transform this country. Thank you all very much.